So I've made a lot of mistakes in my life, and they've led me to a lot of pain. And I feel like I have a message about that. Like, I've learned a lot of really good things. I want you to know that this is a lesson that comes out of my own mistakes that have led me into areas of horrible pain. And if my poor decisions can help you to avoid some of the pain that comes from those poor decisions, that's wonderful. So, and that's what I want to talk about today, pain. So I see pain as a teacher, right? So like when we're babies and we don't have reasoning skills yet, let's say you bolt out into the street. What does a good parent do? They scoop you up, they give you a little swat on the butt. And they don't do that to hurt you. They actually do that to keep you from getting severely hurt. So they give you a little bit of pain that helps to teach you that what you're doing is going to result in pain. And that's something that, you know, when you're a baby, that's something that you just start to avoid. And then later when you're a toddler, sometimes they'll give you a timeout. And just being isolated from the group is enough pain to cause you to sort of stay away from the behavior that you were doing a second ago. You know, life does the same thing for us that our parents do for us in giving us a little bit of pain to help us to avoid much greater pains later on. To help us to avoid things that might be illegal or things that might, you know, really get us hurt or in trouble or in bad places where we're making really terrible decisions. And I see our problems in life as being a teacher. I see pain as a teacher. It teaches us how to do life better. So when you have pain when you're a child, you associate those pains with things that you shouldn't do. So how is it that later on in life, when we're adults, we forget that pain is not just, it's leading us away from the bad things, and pleasure is leading us toward the good things. Now, the thing about the school of life, or the school of hard knocks, call it whatever you want, you never have to pass the same grade twice, okay? So imagine all of life as kindergarten through 12th grade, okay? And when you're at a certain point, you've got certain lessons that have to be learned, and then as soon as you learn those lessons, you get to go on to the next thing. And really, the reason that as teenagers we just think that life is so overwhelming and it's so painful and like everything's so bad, you know, is because we don't have the skills and we haven't passed those grades yet. And areas of great problems are going to result in great pain. So whether you have a physical pain, and that points to a physical problem, the greater the physical pain, the greater the physical problem. If you have a lot of financial stress, the greater the financial stress, the greater the financial problem. And it's that way with relationships, and it's that way with the way that we deal with our emotions and all of it. So anywhere that you have pain right now, just take a second and think about, what are my greatest areas of pain? So I think the reason that we forget from the time we're babies to the time we're adults, that pain is there to teach us something, is that we start blaming our problems on someone else. Because as long as we can say, oh well, I can take credit for the great things that are happening in my life, but the bad things are just happening to me, I have no control over those, then we sort of alleviate the responsibility that we have in those. But at the same time, there's a big problem, because it's kind of a paradox. While we alleviate the responsibility we have, we also give up our control to change that. We can't change something that we have no control over. So, and we also can't take any responsibility or any credit for the great things that are happening in our life at the same time. Because life is either happening to you, and it's all, you know, you're just a victim of life, good or bad, or your life is happening because of you, good or bad, and you can take credit for the good, and you have to take responsibility for the bad. And I think that almost all, if not all, the problems that we have are because of the choices that we've made and the places that we've put ourselves. One really good example of being in a place where it seems like our decisions have nothing to do with it are relationships. Whether it's family relationships or your friends or your intimate relationship, these are all things that affect us so greatly. We very often blame the person that we're in a relationship with for all the problems of the relationship, okay? And somehow we come to a place where we are accepting less than what would be the best for that. The relationships around you are a huge part of that. Let me tell you a story, okay? There are two guys sitting at an old Westy type saloon bar, and one guy is just like, oh man, I got this hangnail. And the other guy's like, what are you belly aching about a hangnail for? He's like, well, you know, it just really hurts, and it's real bad, you know, real bad, buddy. He's like, it's just a hangnail. He's like, well, I know, but it's been really giving me some trouble lately, and I, you know, blah blah blah, and he keeps going on, and the other guy just keeps getting more and more annoyed until he stands up and he shoots the guy in the knee, and then the guy's like, oh, my knee. So, really got into that one. And the other guy's just crying and screaming, and why'd you shoot me in the knee? And he's like, because I was tired of hearing about your hangnail. And really, that kind of sums up sort of how we live. We've got all these different areas of pain when we start out. And the biggest ones are the ones we give our most attention to. And then once we figure that out, we solve that, we kind of graduate from that grade or that level, then we can actually feel the next area of pain. It's like, oh, I didn't even realize this was here until this huge thing went away. So now I'm to this next thing. This isn't as painful as that last thing, but it still hurts a lot, and it still is making problems in my life. And then you fix that, you graduate, you go to the next level, you go to the next grade, you know. And then you get down to these, you know, the splinters and the hangnails. We're always moving in a certain direction in life, right? Life is always moving. It's never static. It's either getting worse, it's getting better, it's going somewhere. You know, like relationships are either in an upward spiral or they're in a downward spiral, or our job is going really well and we're moving up in the company and we've got a lot of respect from our employer and our coworkers. Or it's this downward spiral where, like, you know, I don't like them, they don't like me, and as soon as that happens, it's like we've all been in that situation, and it just spirals downward and downward until you can't take it anymore, and then you quit. When we start to take responsibility for the pain that we have right now, and start to look at the things that we've done, the choices we've made to put ourselves in those painful positions, we take control of the possibilities of the future.